Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 2066. Here we go. It's a long title. Rapid Fire 10 Things You Didn't Know About Me as a Researcher, aka Confessions of a Genealogy Sleuth. So it's Fun Friday. I thought we should have some fun. Peel back the curtain a little, although I'm not opening that curtain. We're going to peel back the virtual curtain and show you a little bit behind the scenes on some of the fun things I get up to. So, you've heard some little stories about me doing genealogy research. So I thought, it's time that you got to meet a little more, find out a little bit more about what I do behind the scenes when it comes to researching and some of the things that I am guilty of, some of my quirks, and just random facts about me and genealogy. So are you ready? It says 10. We might end up with more. I don't know. But I get excited when records are released. So like in 2022, when they released the 1950 census, in 2012, when they released the 1940 census, I got excited because I knew that there was going to be still living people on those, and I wasn't sure if you'd be able to read the details or not, but I wanted to find the details. And the 2012 one, I was able to print off the 1940 census and highlight my mother-in-law's household, the household that she was living in at the time. And when I showed it to her, she goes, "There's me. And that's my sister. And that's my daddy." It was so cute. She was, I don't know, 85, I think, 85, somewhere around there. And she was still calling her father her daddy. It was so cute. That was just perfect. But I love census days because sometimes, it's even the same with the New Zealand birth, deaths, and marriage records too, because sometimes you have to wait a year or two before you can look up a record. So on the US Census, they release them every 72 years, and the English ones are every 121 years, I think it is. They just released the 1920 census in England, the 1921 census from England. So I think that's what, 25 minus, yeah, it's over 100 years. So it was 104 years. So they just released the 1921 English census this year. And so it was another great day because now I could go and see where the people I were looking for, did they ever leave England or were they still in England? So that was kind of cool because it's like you get to a certain point where you can't go any further along this branch. So now we have to make the wish list or put it on the calendar of when we can go and start researching this stuff again. Like if we're waiting for a census report to be released, then we have to figure out what date is it being released, and let's block off that day. And this is the information I want to pull from the 1940 census. This is what I want to pull from the 1950. This is what I want to pull from the 1921 UK census. So you've got to do things like that. And then on my New Zealand side, and the New Zealand birth, deaths, and marriages, they release records constantly. But sometimes you've got to wait a few years because the wedding one only goes up to a certain year, and you're sort of like, oh, no, they got married after that. I think they got married like about 5 years after that. Based on the information that you have, you might be able to work out roughly when they got married, but now you need the records to prove it. And yeah, it's a challenge at times to sit and wait. And there was one record that we were waiting for because we wanted to see, because we knew this person by a certain name, but we knew his birth record had a completely different name on it. And so what did he have on his wedding record? I had to wait. Oh, when did we get that one done? I had to wait a few years for that one. So there's stuff that I put. So there's a file that I have that is a genealogy wish list, which is basically waiting for records to be released. And for some of them, I know I've got to wait like 5 to 10 years for them, or 7 years, or whatever it is, because they got married around him, but New Zealand records will only let me pull the last 80 years, anything 80 years and prior. So like the marriage records, I can only go to, I can go to 1950. I can't go beyond, I can't go 1950 sooner. It's anything from 1950 backwards. And it's from today's day. And it's just the weirdest thing. I tell you, it's so much fun. But you've got the anticipation, it builds up and you get all excited because, yay. So So you got to make sure you've got everything else cleared, everything else up to date, all the reports out to clients and everything else, so that when you know that that date is coming, you can block it off to go looking for records. So yeah, I get excited about release dates for different records when they're released and things like that. That was number one. We're doing this rapid fire. Number two, you've heard me say this before, but I have stayed up until 3 a.m. to try and find somebody's ancestor in their tree, even my own tree, and finding out if something that somebody told me was true or not, and finding out that I spent all that time finding out it wasn't true. But there were times when Brad would come into my office at like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and go, are you ever going to come to bed? Now, I'm a morning person. So me staying up this late at night is, the brain cells aren't working kind of thing. But I'm lost in the rabbit holes. I'm lost down the rabbit hole. And the person I'm looking for is over here, but I'm over here on this person because I've been through the rabbit hole to get over there. And now I've got to go and find more information about that person because maybe it will lead me back to this one over here. 3 o'clock in the morning. I have been known to do that. Since Brad passed, I have done it a few times as well. There's some times I just couldn't sleep. And something in my brain will go, oh, go check this record on this one. Okay, I'll just go look up that one record. And so I've actually woken up, gotten out of bed because I'm wide awake and figure, why not go check it out? And my brain's gone, hey, we got to check this record to see if that person's is on that report or in that record, or this one over here. And sometimes it's one of the not so well known ones. It could be like a criminal record. We're still looking for the police report. It could be we're looking at the probate records. So it's not one of the mainstream ones like birth, deaths, and marriages are. So all the census reports. And so I get up and I thought, okay, I'm going to go look up that one record. Let me tell you, when I get looking in there and I go and look at that one record, it prompts me to go look at this one over here. And then I go look at this one over here. And soon I'm down the rabbit hole. Yeah. I've never sat down at the computer when I even said to Brad one time, so I just got to look up this one record. He goes, which record are you looking for? And so I told him the person I was looking for and what I was going to be looking for on this record. And he goes, one record. I went, yeah, just one record. I'm just going to go look up one record. Yeah, about 2 hours later, he comes and says, you looked up that one record? I go, oh, yeah. And then it led me over to this one. And then we went to this one. And I've got this whole thing. Look what I found. And I've got like this list of stuff that I have found. And I go, now I've got them in one source. I've got, this information from this source, this information from that source. But they've only got one source. So now I've got to go and double check them and find another source for them. And he goes, one record, huh? And I went, yeah. And he's just like, aha. And he would just turn around and walk out the door. I was in the zone. When I get in the zone, I get in the zone. So yes. And when it comes to handwriting, now I love looking at the different calligraphy from the different time periods and things. Some people, and mostly it's in parish records that I get to see all these different handwritings and everything else. And I'm like looking at the handwriting that's there, and some of it is absolutely gorgeous calligraphy. And it's very easy to read. Some of it's a little wonky in some places, but for the most part, it's very easy to read. Then you get the stuff that looks like chicken scratch, and I'm like, how is anybody supposed to read that? Obviously, they could read it when they put it in there. They didn't think about people coming along behind them and trying to figure all that stuff out. Now, did they? Really? How can you read that? How can people? Yeah. And then I'm like, do they send their letter? Because in those days, you write letters and things. So how would people know where to send mail to deliver the letter to if their chicken scratch looks like that? So yeah, I do judge the writing because there's some I get in there and go, oh, this is going to be easy to read. And other times I get in there and go, oh crap, I'm not doing this one today. I'm not in the right frame of mind, because there are certain handwriting styles I have to be in the right frame of mind to read. And so there are times that I will put off reading something because I need to have the right frame of mind. But now we have the advantage of AI. So with ChatGPT, I have actually uploaded handwritten documents, like taken an image shot of them, put them into ChatGPT and go, please transcribe. And on some of them, they've had foreign language on there as well. And so I've said, please transcribe and translate. because sometimes it was like handwriting mixed in with typed stuff, and the typed stuff might have been in a different language. And then up it comes, and I'm like, ooh. And so then I've gone back and looked and compared and gone, yeah, we got it. And sometimes, and like if ChatGPT can't read something, it will put, what did it put in there the other day? Unable, just had a little parenthesis, a little square parenthesis thing that said unable to read. And then it will carry on with the rest of the transcription. And some of it I look at it and go, you haven't quite got it right on that one. So I do double check what ChatGPT comes up with the transcriptions, and say, okay, it's got it really good here, but this area, yeah, no, that's not quite what's in that area. And it could be because there's an overlap between what the typed thing is underneath and the person has written over top of the typed piece of, over the top of the typed form. So that might be a little unclear. But it's very interesting with the AI coming on board that's able to help us do stuff like that with genealogy and help transcribe the handwriting, but you still have to check everything. You still got to check it all. My favorite part of genealogy is not the names, it's the stories. Yes, I want the names. Yes, I want the facts. But what I really, really want when I'm searching for somebody is the stories. Who were these people that walked this earth? Who were these people that were my ancestors or my clients' ancestors? Who were these people? What was their occupation? Where did they live? What was their lifestyle like? I want the stories. I'm a huge storyteller. I love reading stories. I love listening to stories. In fact, I was in, I had a Lyft driver the other day, and it was kind of funny. And we're sitting in the car and we're chit-chatting backwards and forwards. And she was telling me, and the fighter jets were flying over here. That's what it was. I says, I just love watching those guys fly. And she says, yes, me too. She says, my grandfather, and she started telling me the story about her grandfather who would take her up to the lookout point that looks over LAX. It's a very well-known spot in LA for those that like to plane spot. And she said, we would spend ages up there, and he would have me make up stories about who was on that plane, where that plane was going, and who were the people on board. And I thought, and she just had this, and she just lit up when she was telling me the story as she's driving me wherever I'm going. And her face just lit up at the memory of sitting there with her grandfather up there in this lookout area that overlooked LAX. And he would ask her, says, oh, who's on board that airline there? And so she would have to come up with who was on board that airline, where they were going, why they were on the plane. Were they going on vacation? Were they heading home? Were they heading to meet up with somebody? Were they on business? Why were they going? And so he would have her make up these stories. Says, that's so cool. And so we started switching stories about favorite places to plane spot and things like that. It was just a really cool trip, and a trip home, and it went really fast because we were just sitting there doing this whole doing this whole thing. And we even agreed that it is super, super important that we have to tell our story. And I said to her, I says, can you do me a favor? She said, what's that? I says, I'm a genealogist. I said, my biggest thing is getting people to tell their stories. Go home, write that story down about your grandfather, the times he would take to LAX and what he would have you do about the planes and everything else as they're taking off, making up the stories and things like that, and write that story for your future generations. And she said, like, oh, I never thought about writing about that before. I said, because it shows that connection between you and your grandfather, and it is a great memory that you need to share with future generations. I said, you also got to do the other stuff too, like, where were you when this happened? Where were you, were you affected by Hurricane Katrina? Were you affected by this hurricane, that hurricane? Were you there when this earthquake took place? Were you there? Where were you on 9/11? How did that impact your life? Where were you with COVID? How did you cope going through COVID? What effect did it have? Did you lose any family members during COVID? Did you, or did you yourself contract COVID? What was your story during the COVID time? And she's sort of like, she says, you're right. We have to tell these stories. I said, exactly. She says, I'm going to start doing that. And I said, and if you want to, but when you're going from point A to point B without passengers, slip your recorder on your phone and start telling the stories into the recorder. I said, at least you've got them written down at some point, and later on you can transcribe them if you want to. And she was sort of like, oh, I'm going to do that. And when I got out of the car, I turn around and she's there on her phone doing her thing and setting it up. And I see her put it back in the phone holder. And then as she's driving away, I'm watching her talk as she drives away. She did it immediately. So if you think, oh, I don't have time, when you think of a story, pull out your phone, hit the record button on the thing there, and just tell the story. Tell the story. When I'm doing road trips, I keep these little these digital recorders in my car because it is a single touch. I have a little, it's like a label. It's not this one, but it's, what was that one for? To find, oh, okay. I have like these label holders. These label holders, and you just slip it in there, or some of them will have like an external microphone source. This one has an external microphone, so you can get like a lav mic and push and clip it in there, and then just have it on your collar and have this sitting in like a label holder. Just sort of like slip it into one of these, and now you can talk. I actually have like a canvas one of these, which is really cool. But this is a single touch. I just turn it on the side here. I do. Oh, hang on. I don't think it's the right button. I think it's the right button. Oh, no. I hit the power button here, and then when I need to record, I just flip the switch up, record it, and of course it's sitting there. I got the little lav mic that plugs into this, which is over there, and I can have that on my collar, and I just talk while I'm driving. And when I'm done, I just slide that button up. I don't have to look. I just have to feel it because it's a nice big button right there, and you can just slide it up or down depending whether you want it on or off. So just something simple like that. So when you're driving, you're recording it. You're not frigging around with your phone trying to find the recorder on your phone. Grab something like a little digital recorder that has a big button like this. You just flip it up to turn it on, flip it down to turn it off, and you're good to go. Very easy, no excuses. All right, we've taken that. So side stories, who are the neighbors when they were growing up? What scandals were going on in the times that your ancestors were alive? Who were the witnesses on the marriage records, and how were they related to the bridal couple? All right, this one is a guilty pleasure of mine. I love scandal. I love it. And so when I come across an ancestor who has a very interesting story to tell, a very drama type story to tell, or has created a mystery around them, and we're trying to figure out what the truth is, I actually have a folder for uncovering and a folder for the drama stories. So I can pull those out and read through them about my ancestors and things like that. They're really cool. And like I will put and in the one that we're researching, I will have a theory page of different situations that may have happened in order for this particular person to be tied up in that mystery. So I'm very good with theories. I write down my theories, and then later on I will go and say, okay, let's go through my theories and see what we got here and see what we can prove and disprove. And so some of those theories will then become my hypothesis, and then I set out to prove or disprove it. So yeah, have your drama folder. Drama folders that's got all the juicy stories in there. Yes, this one here, actually I've done it twice now. So in the 40 plus years I've been researching genealogy, I have done this twice, followed the wrong family line for 2 to 3 months before I realized it was the wrong people, that they weren't my people. They weren't my people in my direct line. So I separated them from the main tree, and they became one of my little floating trees. And every now and then I go back and check on that family, because on some of them I know I am super close to finding the right spot for that particular family line to fit into the tree. It's not on my direct line. It's on one of those sidelines. And I know that I am close on a couple of them. So those ones I chip away at. Another one, when I get my DNA matches, I will dig and dig and dig and dig until I find them. I will contact the person who I have the DNA match with, go, this is who I am. According to Ancestry, we have this many centimorgans in common, which they say puts us around this thing here. Sorry, I got an itch in my throat. And so I ask them, do you have, if they have a tree there, I say, look, you've got all these names in your tree, but none of them match my tree. These are the names that I'm researching. These are and I start off with my third great grandparents, which is a lot of people. I mean, third great grandparents, you're talking 32. You have 32 of them. So I will turn around and say, and my third great, well, I've also looked at the genealogy, the cousin chart as well to figure out, okay, if it says we're third cousins, that means I have to go back to, I have to look at my second great grandparents. If they say we're fourth cousins, I have to look at my third great grandparents. And so I said, well, according to Ancestry, we may be kind of sort of third or fourth cousins. Here are the names. Here are the last names for my 32 third great grandparents that I'm currently researching. Do any of these names appear in your tree? Sometimes they go yes, and sometimes they're sort of like, no, those don't fit. And like I'll put paternal side, and I'll split it to paternal side and maternal side on my side too, so to see if that helps jog their memories or anything. But and I am determined to clear my list of matches. And then I suddenly remembered, oh yeah, I don't just have them on Ancestry, I have them on Family Tree DNA, and I also have 23andMe. So I need to get busy on those as well. And I have found connections on those, and in my Ancestry tree I have put that we are linked by DNA, and then in the notes I have the link where our DNA match was through Family Tree DNA or 23andMe. So I put there where I got the link from, so that if people come and go, well, you guys aren't linked on the Ancestry DNA. What's going on? It's because I'm linked with them on a different DNA test. So make sure you make notes of that. If you've got one main tree, have it backed up in all sorts of different places, and just do these little matchy things. It's a lot of fun. Let's see what else have I got on my list here. I will get emotional over random things. Like if I come across like a three generation photograph from the late 1800s or something like that, and it's from my ancestors, I will start getting emotional about the things. And especially if I know some of the backstory, if I've already just uncovered some of the backstory of the people that are in the photograph, I will get emotional. I get emotional when they lose children. When I'm in there and I'm looking up birth and deaths and all of that sort of stuff, and I come across and I'm like, oh my gosh, did they lose a child? And I go back and I research, and yes, they did lose a child. And I'm like, I'm a mess. What can I say? When I see the couples getting married, I'm like, yay, I found their marriage record. Awesome. Who was on the certificate, who signed it, and everything else. And when I finally find that one person I've been looking for, like when I found my second great grandfather, and found out that how he became a bookbinder was because his mum married a guy that was a bookbinder, and he basically raised this kid, and my second great grandfather. And there was tears of joy that day, because it was a lot of work for us to be able to find that one record that we needed that blew everything wide open. So yeah, I do get emotional, and I will get pissed off with people as well. Like I was reading the book, the 10 Most Dangerous Men in Australia, which I don't remember the year it was written. And then there is one of my grand uncles has a whole chapter. Everybody has a chapter in there. So my grand uncle is in there in this chapter. And I remember reading this thing. I got so pissed off with this guy. I was like, oh my gosh, no, how can you deny your mother? She was such a wonderful, it's my second great grandmother that he's denying, that he said he didn't know who his mother was. I'm like, she is like from what I had heard, I said, she had outlived 2 husbands. She had outlived 5 of her 10 children. And I'm like, how can you be so mean and say you don't know who she is? Like, I'm talking to the book. This guy's been dead for I don't know how many years. And I'm sitting here talking to what's in the book. And like, how can you say that you're denying your mother? She loved you. She flew all the way over to Australia to visit you while you were in prison. She came home and she passed away a few days later. And you're denying you know who she is. Then how is it she can come visit you if you're denying her? Like, I was getting irate. Yes, when I start reading stuff like that, yes, I will get irate. And I go, this guy is horrible. And then all of a sudden, this little voice that goes, yeah, and you're related to him too. That brings you, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's my great-granduncle. Forgot about that. We all have our people in the tree that we will get annoyed with, we will get upset with when we figure out what they've done and everything else. And then I'm sort of like, and then I sort of like come to my senses, and I'm like, Helen, this happened back, during World War II. It's in the history. There's nothing you can do to change it. You can abuse, you can, get as mad as you like with them, but it's not going to change anything. Get off it, get over it, and keep moving on. So yes, there are times I will do that. I love old occupations too. There's occupations out there that do not exist anymore, like an umbrella mender. You've got the leech collector. You've got the guy, and I can't think of their name. They would go around and light the lamps. They would light the lamps every night down the streets, like the street lamps. They would go and actually light them, and then they'll go around in the morning and they would douse them all once the sun had risen. I can't remember their name, but I just thought, what a fascinating job that was. I keep printed copies of just about everything, just in case. Yes, I have it. I have stuff digitally. I have digital copies of documentation. I have digital copies of records and things. I have digital copies of, if there's a certificate online, a certificate, an obituary, death, marriage, birth, census records. I have, not only do I have the copies digitally, and I have everything backed up in multiple places. You never know. I also have printed copies of everything too, just in case. It's the old school thing coming out. It definitely is the old school thing. And the last thing we're going to talk about is my dream research trip. My dream research trip is to do a genealogy trip through Cornwall, England, Scotland, and Ireland, and visit all the places that my ancestors came from. So down in Cornwall, there's a whole slew of places down there where my ancestors came from. I've traced back my 10th great-grandfather on one part of one tree, and they were in Cornwall from 10 generations ago all the way up to, I think, second great-grandfather, I think it was. I'm trying to remember now. I think it was a second great-grandfather. So I want to go and visit those places in Cornwall so I can learn the history of the area, see the area as it is today, find out what it used to look like, and meet up with historians in each area. Then go up to Warboys and visit the manor if I'm able to, visit the church that's there. And when I go to do this trip, I'm going to be booking in times with people before I go, so they know I'm coming. They know what I'm going to be looking for. I also want to go up to near Inverness in Scotland, because that's close to where the Ross clan comes from, and I'd love to go and visit that area of Ross and Cromarty, in that county of Ross and Cromarty, and just look at that area, because I've got, that's where my Scottish roots are from. There's also another Scottish piece that we found a little bit of, you don't know what they're really called, but little side note for you. So when I was doing my DNA matching, DNA through Ancestry and stuff, and they did the autosomal, which gives you the the regions. It showed you can actually split it in half, so you can see what comes from the mother's side, what comes from the father's side, as far as nationality goes. Now, on my dad's side, we know that my second great grandmother, my second great grandmother was born in the police barracks in Dublin, Ireland. We know that. We know that her father was from Ireland. We know that her mother, we're not sure if she was from Ireland or if she was from Scotland. She has one of those names that could be either. But we've proven the roots on my third great-grandfather's side that he was born in Ireland, and his ancestry comes from Ireland. Her mother's side, we're still figuring that one out. So we know we've got good, strong Irish roots. On my mum's side, my grandmother was the daughter of her father, my great-grandfather. His parents were both Scottish, and of course, being the Ross clan, it comes from Ross and Cromarty. So there's very deep roots on the Scottish side, up to being my great-grandfather, who was 100% Scottish. Well, as far as having two parents that were Scottish goes. But when it came to the DNA matches, this is what was absolutely hilarious. It showed paternal side here. It showed maternal side here. The paternal side had more Scottish than the maternal side, which is where my strong Scottish roots are from. And my maternal side had strong Irish roots, which is where my dad's side of the family comes from. So I just thought it was very interesting. Yet I'm like, okay, something's not right here. But because of me going through and doing DNA matches and matching up these people, and matching up people with me, how they related to me through their grandparent, through the different grandparents and stuff, finding those records, it was just interesting that it came up with the fact that I get more Irish from my mom and more Scottish from my dad, when in physical things. My dad's side has the strong Irish connections, and my mum has the strong Scottish connections. I just thought that was very interesting on the DNA thing. So that was another little piece there. So yes, so I want to go and explore those roots in Scotland and over in Ireland and see what else I can find. And I'd love to go visit their archives and dig through their records and all of that sort of stuff as well. So appointments will be set up before we get there, so we can have some fun. And what was the other thing I was going to tell you guys about? I'm just looking at my list. Did I get everything? Yes, I did. Oh, and another little thing about me is that I don't only have my tree on Ancestry, I have it on My Heritage, and I have it on Family DNA. And the reason I have it on those 3 sites, and I also have Gens Reunited, which is a British genealogy site. And what's the other site I have it on? And I have it on FamilySearch.org. Where else do I have it? I think those are the only places. Because not all my clients are on Ancestry. Some of them are on My Heritage. Some of them are on what's the other one? GenNet or Gens Reunited. So I have my tree on all of those. I have memberships to all of those, so I can help them in the tree that they're in the format that they're used to using and things like that. So plus we have a lot, and plus I also get access to different records that I can't get on Ancestry as well. And oh, that was the other thing I was going to tell you. So my little guilty pleasure with genealogy sometimes is somebody will say something about an ancestor of theirs, and it piques my interest. And it's like, I wonder what I can learn about that for them. And I'll just go off and research. Like I have a friend one time, she mentioned something about her second great grandmother. I thought, I'm going to go find out some more about that. I did not know her maiden name. I only knew her married name. So I went into her profiles, looking through her pictures and stuff, and I found her high school photograph, which had her maiden name underneath it. And from there, I just went, and I actually were Facebook messaging backwards and forwards as well, as I'm finding different records and things. And we just did a quick search, not a deep dive or anything, just a very quick search. And so I says, oh, does this look familiar to you? And she goes, oh, yeah, that's a picture of my dad. And da-da-da. And so she'll tell me the story of her dad. So I was busy putting it into the tree and the story and everything else. And because we're trying to find this information out about her second great grandmother. And it's just little guilty pleasure things that I do. So, yeah, I stalk via Ancestry, I guess. I don't know what you would call it. But it's just one of my little guilty pleasures. Somebody will say something, and it's sort of like, oh, you guys will see what I can find out about that. And so I'll go and research it. So that's just one of my little guilty pleasures. So you actually got more than the 10. And so genealogy isn't just about ancestors. It's also about us, those that we're, the way we chase the stories, the rabbit holes we fall into, the small victories and the quiet obsessions. It's all part of the journey of discovering our ancestors and also discovering what makes us who we are. So thank you for letting me share a few of mine. Go out and have a super fantastic, sparkling, fun Friday. And we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. And I may even have a Zeffie update for you. She's got a vet appointment in the morning. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow evening. Have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. Hey, konera.